We're with Roger Mccann, who is been a lifelong fisherman, lives in the Portland area, and he had a unique experience about 20 or 30 years ago catching a 30-plus pound winter steelhead in Oregon. And to our knowledge, it's the largest recorded steelhead in the state of Oregon, exclusive of what might have been caught in the upper Columbia River.
On the day that we caught this fish, it was in February. I don't remember the actual date, but it was in February 1982. I was fishing with a friend of mine by the name of Willie Brock and his brother Stan and his other brother Pete Brock. Willie had his drift boat and I had my drift boat. Stan fished with me, and all three of these guys played in the NFL. Both Pete and Stan played for a long time. Willie only played a short period of time before he had a pretty significant knee injury and got out of the football business. And we were putting in on the Wilson that morning at a place we called 10 Mile, which in those days we used the guardrail to rope the boat around for safety purposes, and you needed 125 feet of rope to get the boat to the river. Very few people fished there. Walt and I did it all the time, and there was a few others, but not very many people put their boat in there because it kind of beat the boat up pretty good. It was not a good place to put in. But anyway, when I got there was a guide in those days who was also a friend of mine by the name of Steve Arndt. And Steve is putting in ahead of me, and I told the guys with me that Steve will not ever want us to get in front of him. Not that we're going to try, but he thinks we're going to try. And so he won't fish the first hole. And he did not. He just took right off because he did not want to see us get ahead of him. And of course, that first hole is where I got the big steelhead. And I had put some plugs out, and I have a replica. It's not the actual plug of the plug that I was using that morning. And I had Stan in my boat, who was like 280 pounds in those days, and he was watching the left rod, and I told him the right rod was mine. I pulled out into the current, and my rod went down. Fish on, fish on. I pulled over, dropped the hook, started playing this fish, having no idea that it was anything other than a normal-sized steelhead. And I was in some really nasty water for playing a big fish like that. But Stan didn't have the confidence in rowing us out of there, and I didn't want to try and hand him the rod, obviously. So I said, well, Stan, I will talk you through the netting of this fish. And the fish got above me in fairly shallow, fast water, and I could see the size of it. And I knew it wasn't a Chinook because it was too late in the year for it to be a bright, because I could see how bright it was. And I said, oh my God, Stan, this is huge. And I said, I will talk you through this net job. If we screw it up, we screw it up, but we'll do it, just do what I say, and we'll see if we can't get this thing. So I finally played this fish out to where he was pretty well tired, and I said to Stan, put the net in the water, I will let the fish drift back in the current, which I did. He had the net there ready to go. He picked the net up, and rather than scope it, he just swung it into the boat, and my cheap little old net just broke, but the rope broke in the boat. So we had this fish, and I just said, my God, Stan, this thing is huge. I had no idea how big it was, but I knew that it was big enough that I had to think about mounting it. So I laid it in the front of my drift boat, in front of my rowing seat, and I kept a burlap over it, and I kept putting water on it all day long, and we must have weighed it 10 times. And every time we weighed it, it was 30 pounds. Well, then we got to the takeout, and when I got home that night, I made my wife go up to the attic and dig out the old baby scale that you used to put the weights on, and we weighed it again, and it was still 30 pounds. So we got some other nice fish that day, but nothing like that. So that's the story of the big fish.